welcome everybody to today's CTC Civil webinar. Today we're going to be talking about our Earthwork Processor. As we go along here, for those of you watching live, if you have any questions, put them in the question panel and we'll get to those at the end of the broadcast. And as always, this webinar is going to be recorded and put on our YouTube channel to view later. And if you are watching this on YouTube and you have questions, put them in the comment portion of the YouTube and we will get back to you. My name is Tony Crick. I'm the Civil Product Manager here at CTC Software. Thank you for joining us. Let's get started. So Earthwork Processor was developed to help streamline your grading and volume estimates. What we do is we generate volume calculations from earthwork sets that we create, and we have a proposed surface and an existing surface, and we can use polylines or feature lines to create those regions, and they can represent varying grade depths across the site. It will then generate dynamic subgrade surfaces, and we can account for topsoil stripping at the same time and provide cut and fills per region. And if designs change, we simply change our depths and rerun it. We can also then export those to an Excel and also put an AutoCAD table right inside of the drawing. So it's part of our CIM Project Suite of tools, and it is intended for the everyday Civil 3D user creating design and production drawings. We are currently on version 26.1, which will work back to Civil 3D version 2022. So if you have our tools and you're not upgraded yet to 26.1, I recommend that you do that. And I will show you how to do that here in a second. So today we're going to show you how to automate your cut and fill volume calculations that will generate accurate earthwork quantity takeoffs and show how to analyze those design surfaces, which will streamline our earthwork reporting and documentation. So why did we create it? Why use Earthwork Processor? Well, it's easier than native tools than using the volume dashboard. We can also create variable subgrade depth calculations within our sets. And when updates are required, we can run those very easily. And with that, we can create the labels and/or tables simultaneously. So we do it by defining sets for earthwork volumes. And then we calculate the subgrade by region, and those can be polylines, feature lines, survey figures. They have to be closed, however. And then the regions will define multiple subgrade depths. So then we select from our proposed and existing surfaces, we can include topsoil stripping, and they will create dynamic Civil 3D surfaces which are non-proprietary. And then we can save templates for similar project sites. So with that, let's jump into Civil 3D and get started. Okay, hopefully you can all see this. We have a simple site here that's been created. It was actually created using our auto grader tool to grade out this parking lot, this pond, and this building pad right here. So Earthwork Processor, as you saw in the PowerPoint, it resides up here. It has a simple pull down right there to get at it. So we have two things in here, our offset earthwork regions and the calculate regions. So let's take a look at it and see what it looks like. Give it a second while it opens here. All right, here it is. So the first thing you're going to want to do is look in your options and get all of your defaults set up. So this is where your Earthwork set default paths are. This is also where your template will go and your tables. So you're probably going to want to put those on a network location. Unless you're working straight on your hard drive as I am today, you can do that. But if you want to share it, you will have to move that stuff. So we have our surface creation section right here. And we have this checkbox right here, which is going to create folders for each of our Earthwork sets. And our defaults are going to come from here. If we want to match them, we'll do that, select that. We will create break lines from those surfaces, and we can also put some shading on there. If you have a style that works with that, then you can set all that right here. You simply do it by adding those here and then choosing the color. That is something you use. And then our labels and reports section. So right here is our labels section. Here we can show what we want to include in our labels. So the name, proposed, existing, style name, all kinds of stuff here. If I check that, we'll see that existing will be put over there. And if at any time we want to adjust the order of these, we just simply select it and use our up-down arrows to do that. And then the text style that we want it to use is right here. I'm going to leave it at annotate. And these come right from your annotation portion of your Civil 3D. We don't ever use anything that is proprietary. So we build strictly on the Civil 3D stuff. And then how do we want our calculation to be and stuff like that. So in the layer it goes on. And the table works the same way. Open it up, we see the same dialog and we have the same control. And then the table style is going to pull right from the tables that you have, table styles that you have within your drawing. So there are some things we want to check right away. Let me delete that. Out of there, we'll get started from scratch. So we mentioned that we can use templates to do this. So if I had templates, I would come right here. Whoops. Hit my open, and I've got a few that I have put in here already. So if you're doing stuff on a pretty general basis, you can save a template like this. For this site overall, I can go ahead and open that, and it comes already pre-populated. So if I come in here and I look, it knows that because I use the asterisks in my layer find right there. So we mentioned some of the rules that we need. So we need a proposed surface. We need an existing surface. In most cases to do that, I'm going to show you how we can create a strip surface to do that from if needed. And then the regions of polylines should have depth to them. Now the depth is relative to the surface. So the building is 4 feet down. We want to take out 4 feet and so on as we do this. And you notice these two are at 0. So we can't have negative values when we do this. But I can set that right here to 1.5. And it will change in my drawing. So let's take a look at that again. So I'll close this. And these two regions are right here. So first of all, they touch. Another rule is they cannot touch, they cannot cross. In order for the tool to work, it needs to define these regions. So if you're setting up these regions and you've done something like this, we can use our offset regions. So you don't have to draw it twice. We'll just hit our offset regions. And as I select that, I get a dialog like this, another of our typical filter dialog stuff. So I'm actually going to go inward with this one. And I'm going to leave it at 0.1. So we can set this all the way out to 8 decimal places if we want. 0.1 isn't going to affect our quantities by much. I can do it using our filter component there as well by picking it by layer, object, whatever's in the site. I can grab that too. So I'm just going to grab this line right here. And I'm going to tell it to delete the one that's there so we don't have any confusion. It's going to create a new one right on there. So I'll just say OK. And it tells me right here, success. And the layer doesn't have an object name, but we know it's that layer. So now we're away from there when we're ready to run. So as I said, if you do that, set up your regions like this right here, you see these hatched areas. That's representing the heavy pavement for this main drive area and then a lighter pavement for my parking area here. Now when I open up Earthwork Processor again, you don't have to do the pull down every time, by the way. It will. Keeps opening over there. It will remember the last option you chose, so you would just have to click that. So it hangs on to all of this. Oh, I was going to show you the elevations that we had set to it. So we've got pavement light is 0, pavement heavy is 0. So let me change that, or close that, I mean. Let's come back to this. Let's do this pavement light area. So it's the polyline we're concerned about. And you see the elevation here is 0. So we're going to come down 1.5 foot and a half for that one. So I'll give it 1.5. Now let's look at this heavy pavement line right here. We see that elevation is at 0. Let me close that, and we'll go back to Earthwork Processor here. If I hit my calculate Earthworks again, give it a second to open. And now everything's out of date right here, but we'll see that I set this to 1.5, and this one is still at 0. So let's set the heavy pavement area to 2 feet. So we're going to be 2 feet down. And now I can select that and I can tell it to run. But first I want to show you one other thing here. So let me close that again. I want to show you in the tool space how we set that at the beginning to create surfaces. So I have an existing ground, a finished ground there right now. And in our options, window there, we set it to create subfolders for those. Now it will create the regions without subfolders if we would like to do that, but it's easier to keep track of them when we have several of these to go. So if you remember, that was here, surface creation, this checkbox right here. Okay, so if I select that, and now I'm going to set this back to 2. I'm going to run it. I have no stripping on this one right here. In fact, let me go ahead and I'll add a 1/2 foot to there just to show you how that goes. And now I can say it, run. I have only the one in here. If I get them all set up, I can do a run all. So it's going to tell me what it's going to do. It's going to create, or it's going to update one of those, which is this guy right here. And now here I get my volume calculations. So the way this works is we have the area in total up here. I also had it turned on down here. That's in your options if you want to see the total bar there. So this is total by site or set, which is my site overall. And then I have a cut, I have a net to cut, I guess. And then the earthwork stripping is going to come off of the fill. Oops, here's my fill. So I have a fill and my cut. So that's how that's going to change. The stripping is actually going to be included in the cut. So it's going to come off of there, which is why you see that go down. So if I put this back to 0, anytime you change anything, it's going to go out of date. And now I have my volumes without stripping coming right from a comparison there. So let me close this and go to our tool space. Here it created that folder for my surfaces. So I have my volume surface and my actual surface, or surfaces right here. Okay, so I've also cut a couple of cross sections through here. Here and here. And then put the existing and the proposed ground in profile here. So I have my existing, or my finish, I mean, and my existing here. Okay. So let's go back to Earthwork Processor and show you how we can get our, if we want to change this, we will delete that right out of there. All right, I can change this too at any time. Let's change that first. So it says we have 6 objects here. So I've got the building, some turf areas, but if I only wanted to do, I also have my grading limits. I want to get rid of my grading limits as well. So let's take our grading limits off of there. I'll say star, grade star, and I'll take off the building. So wildcards, just like Civil 3D, are available. And let me take off my turf. If I hit my refresh, I got down to 5. So what did I miss? Oh, I think I missed a comma here. Try that. There we go. So now I only have the 2 here for just my paved areas. So if I were to make a copy of this now, if I just call this my paved areas, that's all it will run. So I can go ahead and I can run this now. And if I do this very regularly, can always change these at any time. I can also load it from a template, which I've done here. So if I go ahead and I just open this and put that in there, you'll see it's the same one, except it's got this grade limits in there. So in this case, that one needs to be updated. I'm going to delete that. And let's save that. So if I needed to save it, I just hit the saved right here. And now I want just the paved areas, so I can select that. Is it going to overwrite? Yep, that's fine. Perfect. So there we go. So that's the paved areas. So now if I go ahead and delete this, I'm going to delete everything about that, the site overall, and then I'll show you what happens to that. So it's going to delete everything associated with it. So if I close this and I come back to my tool space, we see we only have surfaces for the paved areas. Okay, so let's go ahead and open it back up. And we can see what they look like in profile here, which I'll show you in just a second. Should be opening here, but it isn't. We'll have to work on that. Okay, so if I want to do some other things, I'm not sure if I have a template. Let's look if I do. To do just the turf areas, then I can do that. Hit the wrong. So I don't have one just for the turf, but I have one for just the building footprint. And that might be a typical thing you would bring in, done every time. So I'll go ahead and I'll load that in there too. So now I can run and I can get volumes for just the grading at this building area right here. And then the totals will be all a part of that. Let me run that. And then let's close. And let's see what we have for profiles now. So if I want to see what it looks like in this direction across here, let's add those surface profiles to my profile. So I want to add my building footprint, my subgrade. Change the style. Subgrade for the building. Okay. And let's put the paved area in there. We'll call that the subgrade. Okay. So there's what we see right now. So here's my subgrade region. You can see it drops right down there. So I'm 2 feet here, but I'm 1.5 here. And I can change those at any time. Then here's my building. Let's change that draw order. So here's my building area. So all it affected, nothing comes out here. It's just the grading for the building. So only the volumes for that building right here. Okay, so if something changed, let's make a change. Let's change this area, how this looks right here. Okay, let's push the light up. Well, let's make that a little deeper for dramatic effect here so you can really see it. Let me open Earthwork Processor back up again, and we'll quickly change that, how that looks. And this is just verification to see, is it doing what I expect it to do? And in this case, it is. So if I change these now, let me change that to 2.5. Oh, I should have showed you that. We'll show you that in a second, how the polylines have changed. And let's change this to 1. And now you notice, as soon as I change anything, it goes to out of date. So I'll just run it again. Close it. And there you see it changed. So now we have quite a dramatic change, and it does that instantaneously. All of my volumes are updated automatically. Now I didn't include these turf areas in here, but we can do that. So let's do that. Let's come back and do this one more time. Oops, I did want to show you, well, we'll show you that in a second. I'll show you the depths that we have for our pavement areas. Give me a second while it opens here. There it is. So we'll bring it back. So let's add these in. So we took them out here. Well, let's put them back in. So if I want to add those to the set, I hit that and I see refresh. Now I see I have 4 objects. See my wildcard is applied there to it. So I say okay. And now we see those. So now I have one turf area that is 1/2 foot of cut and the other one that's 1.75. How do I know where they are? Am I doing this right? So we can use our little spyglass right here, and this will tell us what it is. So this is all a 1/2 foot of cut, and this one is here. That's our 1'8", 9, 1'9" for that one. So now if I go ahead and I run this again, so again, everything's out of date. So it's going through and it's updating everything, all my numbers. It's creating the surface again in the background, and I can close it. Oh, I should have pointed. There is a question that I do want to answer live here about shrinkage, and I don't know if you noticed that. That's my cut fill factors. I did a 1.3, so a 30%. They're asking about a 10, and that would be done right in the table. So now if we look here, we can see the change has been made here. I look and it's got my paved areas, still calling for that, and it's updated it here. Let's go back. Let's do one more thing. Whoops. I want to show you how these have changed. So this one, if you remember before, was at 0, and now it's at 2.5. And this one we set using it, and it's 1 now, but it's changed to 1. Okay, so but if I change one of these, let's change them back to what they were, these polylines. We'll go, when we open it back up, we'll see it's out of date, so we'll know that something has changed. So I'm going to change that one to 2. Let's change this one back to 1.5. Then we'll open the Earthwork Processor and we'll run it one more time. Okay. So we notice that they've changed here. We're out of date. These are still valid because they haven't changed yet. So let's run that one more time. Now let's close. And here's what we're getting for our profiles again. So here's our stripped area up in this area right here. So we took some stripping off all the way through there before we did the other cut. And I could not include that as well to get it back up to here if I wanted. Totally up to you how you do that. One thing I would recommend is if on a very large site, if you are using, if you're going to strip it, I would first make a stripping surface, and then I would use that as my existing. So by that, I'll show you what I mean. And you could make a template out of this too. We'll do that. And someone was asking about the shrinkage factor. That's right here, my cut fill factor. So in my options, I can set that default right here to what I want it to be, along with the stripping depth. And here's where I mentioned about that totals row down here. That's right here. Okay. So if I hit that, I can apply my factors right here. Oops. I'll do that just for those two. For these two areas, our turf areas, we probably don't need that. So now let's rerun it. Now the numbers will reflect that. So some areas of no fill here, and we got our cut factor. But I mentioned about the stripping. I don't think I have one. Let's see if I did save one earlier today. I did not. Cancel, so let's make one. So we just hit the green plus right here. We go to our set, and I'm going to call it my stripped surface. And in this case, you would compare the existing to the existing. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take that existing surface, and I'm just going to bring it down by a half a foot. So in my regions, I have one that is called grading limits. So if I just type my wildcard here, I get it here. I say okay, because it is on a frozen layer, so we don't see it, but it's the entirety of the site right there. So I can do this one of two ways. I can give it a half a foot right here, or I already have it set right here. So if we save that as a template, and it's always a half a foot, there's the two ways that we can do it. So if I had it at 0, I'd set it a half. I'll get the same numbers. So if I run that set, now when I export my table, I can set up a formula to take care of that, but I know that this is my cut, and it's assumed that the stripped material, if we use it in stripping, is going to go back into your site. But we don't know if it's suitable material or unsuitable material. So that's why I say in a case like this, if we create a stripped surface and we use that as our existing surface, it's available here now. So if I set my proposed, well, I'm just going to make, whoops, accidentally hit escape. Let's just show it to you over here. So now I have a stripped surface to use as my existing surface. So I'll open this up one more time. We'll look at it here. So if that was my proposed and I wanted to change these. So now I'm going to go to my stripped surface and use that for my existing. Now I can rerun it. I don't know why my profile didn't pop back up there for my surfaces, but now I can add my stripped surface. Let's put it in this one. So if I come to this one and I add my stripped surface across there, we'll see it will be down a half a foot from everything else. So I'm going to add that, and I have a style to show that. So let me grab that, stripping. Okay. Okay, and there it is. So across the entire site where it's out of, it doesn't match it, it comes back to 0. So we have that strip right off of there and my existing ground. Okay, I think that's all I have to show you, unless you guys have any questions about it. We'll go back to the PowerPoint. Okay, as we said, it's part of our CTC CIM Project Suite of tools at 26. Oh, I was going to show you that. Let me show you that. Exit out of there. It's going to show you how to see what you have, what your version is. So I open it back up. Keeps popping up over there. and I hit my about right here, this tells you right here. So it's part of the subscription. If you have the tools anyway, you can go ahead and update right here. You just hit the download latest installer. It will take you right to the website to do so. That's how you would get that update, to see where the update is. And if you don't have it and you would like to get it, you can go to ctcsoftware.com. We'd be happy to help you out there. And as always, if you need any help or have any ideas, contact support. We design all of our tools for you, mostly from suggestions by you, to make your life easier. So thank you for joining us here today. And if you're watching on YouTube, thank you for taking the time to watch that.